Welcome to the Scare Hour, where scary stories meet dark truths. Tonight, 5 real accounts that will make you question what hides in the shadows. Dim the lights and listen closely. Story 1: The Shadow That Followed. Jenna worked the late shift at a downtown diner. By the time she closed up, it was nearly midnight. The air was cold, the streets unusually silent, and a damp fog had rolled in, clinging to the sidewalks like smoke. She pulled her jacket tight and started the walk home. Just 6 blocks, she told herself. Safe enough. At first, the sound of footsteps behind her barely registered, a soft echo on the cracked pavement. But the longer she walked, the clearer it became. There was a rhythm that didn't match her own. When she stopped, the sound stopped. When she quickened her pace, the steps quickened too. Her pulse pounded in her ears. She darted a glance over her shoulder. Nothing. Just shifting shadows from the old street lamps and the thick fog curling around them. Jenna turned down a narrow side street, hoping to lose whoever, or whatever, was there. The buildings loomed close, their windows dark, some shattered. That's when she noticed it. A long, stretched shadow sliding across the pavement beside her. But there was no one to cast it. Her breath caught. She broke into a jog, then a run, fumbling for her keys as she reached her apartment. Slamming the door shut behind her, she leaned against it, chest heaving, trying to convince herself it was her imagination. But then, she looked at the hallway mirror. In her reflection, just over her shoulder, a tall figure stood in the corner of the room. Its shape was blurred, almost liquid, but its head tilted slowly, watching her. Jenna spun around. The hallway was empty. When she turned back to the mirror, the shadow was still there. Story 2: The Locked Room. College life is never easy, especially on a budget. When Emma found a small apartment for half the price of others in town, she thought she had struck gold. The landlord gave only one condition: don't open the locked door at the end of the hall. At first, she didn't think much of it. But the nights were different. Scratching sounds echoed from behind that door, sometimes faint whispers that made her skin crawl. One evening, unable to sleep, Emma pressed her ear against the wood. The whispers were clearer now, urgent, almost pleading. "Help me! Help me!" Her nerves shattered. She pried the door open with a screwdriver. Inside was a small, windowless room. The walls were covered in deep claw marks, some old, some fresh. On the far wall, written in something dark and crusted, were words that made her blood run cold. "Don't let me out again." Story 3: The Man in the Window. Claire lived alone, and her bedroom window faced a quiet backyard. But lately, she kept waking at 3 a.m., always 3 a.m., to the unsettling feeling of being watched. One night, she finally gathered the courage to look. Her blood froze. Reflected in the glass was the face of a man, grinning, eyes locked on hers. But when she pulled the curtains back, the yard outside was empty. She told herself it was stress, maybe a dream. But the next morning, she found something in the dirt beneath her window. Muddy footprints, large, heavy, and leading straight toward her house. The strange part? The prints stopped abruptly halfway across the yard, as if the man had vanished into thin air. Story 4: The Shadow at the Edge of the Bed. Mark had battled sleep paralysis for years, but nothing prepared him for the night. The shadows grew darker. Frozen in place, he opened his eyes to find a tall, gaunt figure standing at the edge of his bed. Its form was darker than the room itself, its head cocked unnaturally as if studying him. He tried to scream, but his body refused to move. The figure leaned closer, and Mark swore he felt the icy weight of its stare pressing into his chest. Suddenly, he broke free, gasping, and the figure was gone. Weeks later, while sharing beers with his roommate, Mark hesitantly described what he'd seen. His roommate went pale and whispered, "I've been seeing the same figure too, but I'm not asleep when it comes." Story 5: The Vanishing Hitchhiker. It was close to midnight when a young man drove along a deserted stretch of highway. Fog curled over the road, swallowing the glow of his headlights. That's when he saw her, standing on the shoulder, shivering in a thin white dress, her thumb half raised as if she couldn't decide whether to ask for help. He slowed down and rolled down his window. The woman's face was pale, her eyes wide with exhaustion. Without saying much, she slid into the back seat. She spoke only once, in a soft, trembling voice, giving him directions to her home. When the car rolled to a stop in front of a small house, the man turned to tell her they had arrived. The seat was empty. His heart lurched. He swore he had just seen her reflection in the rearview mirror seconds before. Confused, he approached the house and knocked. An older woman answered, her face drained of color as he stammered out what had happened. Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "That was my daughter. She died on this road, 10 years ago to the night." These aren't just stories, they're warnings. Because the dark is never empty. It waits. If you dare to hear more, subscribe and join us again at the Scare Hour. Scary stories, dark truths.